All right, AP Calculus, we are going to go into section 6.3. We're going to start out with rules for definite integrals, and after that, we are going to go into how to use antiderivatives to find the value of integrals. The other part of this section will be average value of a function. We're going to do that in a second video. So let's start out. Order of integration. So the first rule states that we have, if we have an interval from b to a of f of x, so if I take that integral first, so the integral from b to a of f of x dx, that will be the opposite of the integral from a to b of f of x dx. So we just changed the order of integration from a to b, from b to a to b, and when you do that, it becomes the opposite. And we'll go through examples and explain why that is and all that kind of thing. Okay. Then we have the zero property. The integral of f of x dx from a to a is 0. Hopefully that's obvious. If the integral calculates the area under the function between two values, where if the values are at the same place, there's going to be no area to find, and the value is 0. Constant multiple. If you have a constant multiple being multiplied by your function, simplify it by taking that multiple out, and that'll have the same value. Sum and difference. If you are taking the sum of many terms or many different functions, you can split those up into separate functions and smaller functions that are easier to integrate. So that's sum and difference. Additivity. Okay, so if I find the area from a to b of f of x dx plus the area from b to c of f of x dx, that's going to give me the total area from a all the way to c. Okay? Now, I'll use these words from time to time, but it isn't tremendously important that you remember all these terms, okay? But it is important that you remember these relationships between integrals. Okay, so let's say I have, let me move this down here, the integrals that you see above. Suppose f and g are integrable, and the integral from -1 to 2 of f of x is 3, integral from 2 to 6 of f of x is, I didn't give that a value. Shame, shame. Let's call it, gee, I don't know. Let's call it 1, just to call it something, I guess. So let's call that 1. And then the integral from -1 to 2 of g of x is 4. -1 to 5 of 2 times g of x would be 7. Okay, so let's calculate these then. The area from 3 to 3, okay, well that's our zero product property. I'm going from 3 to 3. That's simply going to be 0. Okay, so that's the zero property of integrals. Here we have the integral from -1 to 2 of 3f of x. Well, remember, we have a constant multiple rule that says that 3 can be taken out. And since above they tell me the integral from -1 to 2 of f of x dx is 3, now I have 3 times 3, which would give me 9. Next one, the integral from 2 to 5 of g of x. I don't have that, but I know that the integral from -1 to 2 of g plus the integral from 2 to 5 of g should equal the integral from -1 to 5 of g. Okay? Now, I perhaps should have done this one first on the right here. What is the integral from -1 to 5 of g? Well, since 2g of x is 7, then I could say that 2 times the integral from -1 to 5 of g would be 7. So therefore, the integral from -1 to 5 of g would be 7/2, or 3.5. Okay? So the integral from -1 to 2 of g is 4, plus the integral from 2 to 5, I don't know, let's just call that a big old x, equals the integral from -1 to 5, which is 7/2, or 3.5. Well, if that's the case, then this integral right here, which is our x in our equation, must be -1/2. 4 plus -1/2 would give me 7/2. And I've, of course, found out that this was 7/2 as well. The integral from, let's go up here, 6 to 2 f of x dx. Well, we've just simply changed the order of integration from this problem. So if this was 1 from 2 to 6, then switching around to 6 to 2, that would be -1. Okay, let's come down here. Integral from -1 to 6 of f of u du. You notice there's a u there instead of an x. It doesn't matter what the independent variable is. It could be an x, a u, a w, a y, whatever that independent variable is, doesn't really make a difference. So the integral from -1 to 6 of f of u would be the same as the integral from -1 to 6 of f of x. You know, when we put stuff in our calculator, I always change things to x because it doesn't matter. Well, same thing here. So how am I going to find this though? Well, we have additivity here. The integral from -1 to 2 is 3, plus the integral from 2 to 6 is 1. So therefore the integral from -1 all the way to 6 would be the sum of these two, which would be 4. Last one is a combination of the sum and difference property and the constant multiple rule. So first, the constant multiple rule, you notice I have this 3 down here. Well, that means I could write this as 1/3 the integral from -1 to 2. And since I'm going f of x plus g of x, I can split those up into an f of x and a g of x, both from -1 to 2. And I made one mistake here. The 1/3 isn't just multiplied by the f of x, it's multiplied by the entire thing. The whole thing was divided by 3, so the whole thing is multiplied by 1/3. So 1/3 integral from -1 to 2 of f of x is 3, plus the integral from -1 to 2 of g of x is 4, and that gives me 7/3. So that's just a little exercise in understanding what the rules or properties are of integrals and being able to use them. Now I'm skipping over the average value of a function stuff, and I want to come to this. Now, we're going to evaluate integrals using an antiderivative of each quantity. It's a pretty simple thing to do. The question is, why does it work? Let me go to a blank page here. When we find, if I have a function f of x from a to b, we know that that's finding the area between that function and the axis, correct? And in the problems where remember I introduced this, we were doing volume over time. And so, or not volume, velocity over a period of time. And we realized that if I'm finding the area, I'm actually multiplying velocity times time, and that gave me distance. That gave me the distance that was traveled over that time period. Okay? Well, what do we know? We know that distance or position and velocity are related in such a way that v is the derivative of position or of the distance traveled. So therefore, if I know the velocity and I want to find the distance, one way to do it is say, well, from the velocity function, let's find the distance function. And then if I know the distance function, I can figure out how far it's traveled from this time to this time and figure out the difference. So finding an antiderivative is now going to be a quick way of doing this. So we start out simple. So here's how it works. I've got y equals 12, which would be a horizontal line, right? From 5 to 2. Now that's backwards, isn't it? So what do we know? We know if I change the order of integration, it would now go from 2 to 5 of 12. But it would be the opposite because I changed the order. So what is this area right here? Well, you can see the area is 3 by 12. So 3 by 12 would be 36. So the answer for the integral from 2 to 5 is 36, and we take the opposite. The answer should be -36. What we're saying we can do here is take the antiderivative of 12. Watch this. So the antiderivative of 12 would be what? Well, it'll be 12x. Okay. We're reversing the power rule. I know the derivative of 12x is 12, So 12 must be the derivative of 12x. That's the antiderivative. So now if I evaluate that from 5 to 2, all I have to do then is say, all right, plug in the upper limit, 12 times 2, minus plug in the lower limit, which is 5, so 12 times 5. That would give me 24 minus 60, which, there you go, sure enough, negative 36. Let's try the next one. Integral from 1 to 2 of 7x squared. So let's find the antiderivative first. So if I reverse the power rule, I got to add 1 back on to the exponent. And then 7 times what number gives me 7/3? Well, I'm sorry, gives me 3. And that, of course, would be 7/3. If you're not sure, just check your work. 3 times 7/3, yep, that would be 7. Reduce the power by 1. Good as gold. From 1 to 2, so we evaluate that. So I write this bar here. We evaluate from 1 to 2. So evaluating this, let's take this constant multiple out of here, 7/3, times, let's go 2 to the third, minus 1 to the third. So 2 to the third is 8. 1 to the third is 1, so that's 8 minus 1, which is 7. So 7/3 times 7 would be 49/3. Okay? Remember that you can check answers using your calculator also. Just do a FNInt on your calculator, and you'll be able to tell that's 49/3. Let's try the next one. 0 to negative 2 of 4x plus 5. Now, treat each term individually. What's the antiderivative of 4x? Well, add 1 to the exponent, and then 4 divided by 2 would be 2. Plus antiderivative of 5, simple, that's just 5x. Integrate this from 0 to negative 2. So put in negative 2, so I get 2 times negative 2 squared plus 5 times negative 2 minus, now plug in 0, 2 times 0 squared plus 5 times 0. So here we go. Negative 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10 minus, this stuff is all 0. So 8 minus 10 is going to be negative 2 will be our value there. All right, let's try a couple more here. Another polynomial. Add 1 to the exponent. I get x to the third. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Minus, add 1 to the exponent, x squared. Negative 1 divided by 2 is negative 1/2. Then plus 4x. Evaluate that from 0 to 2. So I plug in 2. 2 to the third is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Minus 2 squared is 4. Half of 4 is 2. Plus 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 0 minus 0 plus 0. This whole thing is going to be 0. So that would give us 22. Now look at this one. Well, this looks a little more difficult, but if I rewrite it as 5 times, and the 5 is a constant multiple, I can take that out front, x plus 2, actually we can leave it as 1 over x plus 2. Let's do that. I know 1 over x is the derivative of natural log, right? So 1 over x plus 2, when I take that antiderivative, you're going to get the natural log of, now technically you're going to learn it's the absolute value of x plus 2 because you can't take the log of a negative. You can only take the log of positive numbers. However, because I'm plugging in positive numbers anyway, it really wouldn't be a big deal yet. Okay, so what do I get here? 5 times, put in 4. I get natural log of 6 minus, put in 2, natural log of 4. Last one, hopefully you recognize this. This is like an inverse secant derivative. The only difference is usually you have an absolute value here, but again, it doesn't matter because the values are positive. This is the inverse secant of x from 1 to 2. So we take the inverse secant of 2 minus the inverse secant of 1, and that'll give us pi over 3 minus Inverse secant of 1 would be 0. That's pi over 3. Good luck.